ever get that feeling like some thinkers they just get it? Timeless, you know? That's John Stuart Mill for me.
Yeah.
We're diving deep into his ideas this time. Liberty, happiness, that whole shebang.
Big stuff.
You might be thinking, philosophy on this show, but trust me, this stuff is way more relevant than you think, especially like right now.
It's true. To really wrap your head around Mill, you got to picture 19th century Britain Industrial Revolution in full swing, massive changes everywhere you look. Mill was right there in the thick of it and realized, hey, we need new ways of thinking about individual rights in a society that's changing faster than ever.
Okay, so let's unpack one of his big, kind of intimidating ideas. Utilitarianism. Sounds like, I don't know, a robot uprising or something, but I get the feeling it's really about happiness.
Yeah. At its core, it's about the greatest good for the greatest number, aiming for maximum happiness, basically.
This makes sense so far.
But Mill throws in a curveball.
Mm-hmm.
He was adamant that not all happiness is created equal. There are levels to this, you see.
Different levels of happiness. Okay, now you've got my attention. What's talking about there?
This is where Mill gets really interesting. He has this famous line. He said, "It is better to be a human being dissatisfied than a pig satisfied." And it might sound kind of harsh, but
A little bit.
he's making a point. Just feeling good all the time, that's not true happiness. Not really. It's about striving for something more fulfilling. Think intellectual pursuits, meaningful connections, engaging with art, things that might challenge you, push you out of your comfort zone a little, but ultimately lead to a much deeper, more profound sense of satisfaction than, say, just scarfing down a whole bag of chips.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So it's less about instant gratification and more about those experiences that really make you think and feel something, even if they're a little tougher to get.
That's the gist of it, yeah.
But how do I put that into practice, you know? How do I choose that higher happiness in my own life? Like, what should I prioritize?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's something Mill really makes us think about. It's about the choices you make every single day. Are you constantly going for that quick hit of pleasure, that pig-satisfied kind of happiness? Or are you pushing yourself, seeking out experiences that might take more effort, more time, but ultimately leave you feeling more fulfilled?
Right, because reading a book that challenges your perspective probably isn't as immediately gratifying as, like, I don't know, watching funny cat videos online, but in the long run.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One might enrich your understanding of the world. The other, well, it's cute cats, right? Mill would say those choices, they add up. Consistently choosing those higher pleasures, that's what leads to a truly fulfilling life.
This is already making me rethink some of my choices, I'm not going to lie, but it brings up something else. If everyone's out there finding their own higher happiness, what's stopping anyone from doing whatever they want, even if it messes things up for everyone else? Where do we draw the line?
You've hit on a really crucial point, and Mill addressed it with something he called the harm principle. Basically, you have the freedom to do what you want as long as it doesn't harm anyone else.
Okay, that makes sense on the surface, but how far does that go? I mean, where does harm begin?
And this is where it gets really interesting, because Mill was incredibly wary of even democratic majorities trying to suppress individual rights.
So even if a majority of people think something is wrong, it shouldn't be outlawed if it's not actually hurting anyone. That's a pretty radical idea, even today. Can you give me an example of how that might play out in the real world?
Absolutely. Let's take something like hate speech. I think most people would agree that spreading hateful rhetoric is wrong.
Rad, definitely.
But Mill might argue that simply expressing those hateful views, even if they're offensive, shouldn't be illegal unless they directly incite violence or harm to others. He'd say censorship, even with good intentions, can be a dangerous game.
So it's more about the potential consequences of those words than the words themselves.
In a way, yes. It's a thorny issue, no easy answers, but that's what Mill forces us to confront.
It definitely makes you think. And speaking of things that make you think, we've only scratched the surface of Mill's ideas here. We'll be back after a quick break to delve deeper into his views on free speech and why he believed it was so vital for a thriving society. Don't go anywhere.
You know, it's funny how Mill was so into individual freedom, like we were just talking about, and it's like it all comes back to free speech for him. Almost like it was the key to everything, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Open dialogue was everything to Mill. But it wasn't just about, enjoying a good debate. Like, he deeply, truly believed that the only way to get to the truth of anything was to let all these different ideas clash, even the ones that seemed totally off the wall at first.
So even the bad ideas, they had a purpose for him. That's kind of hard to wrap your head around. It's like, think about it. How do you know something's true if no one's ever allowed to even question it? Because what he called dead dogma, it's those beliefs we just accept without really thinking about them, you know?
Yeah.
And he wanted this like marketplace of ideas, where the good ideas, they naturally rise to the top, just like in a free market. You know what I mean?
Right, like a competition to find the best ideas, not just sticking with what we already think.
Exactly.
So by actually engaging with all these different views, even the ones that rub us the wrong way, we actually come out of it understanding our own views better.
100%. And that's what makes this so relevant to us now. Think about echo chambers, online, cancel culture, all that. Those are places where if you have a different opinion, it's like, nope, shut it down. And we'll be like, hold on, even if you think it's for the best, that kind of censorship, it's going to backfire. It stops those hard conversations that actually help us grow.
It's like we're so scared of being offended, so scared of having to actually think about something that we just shut down anything that challenges our views.
Right. And before you know it, you've got dead dogma everywhere and nobody even realizes it.
Wow. It's kind of scary how relevant that is today, even though he was writing back in the 1800s. But he wasn't just talking about free speech, right? Like, his thing about individual freedom, it totally went hand in hand with equality, especially for women, which was radical for his time, let's be real.
Totally. His ideas on women's rights were unheard of back then. And it wasn't just this moral ideal to him. He truly believed it would benefit everyone, make society as a whole stronger. Like, it was just common sense.
So it wasn't just the right thing to do, it was the smart thing to do.
100%. He was saying, look, if we deny women the same opportunities as men in education, in the workforce, in politics, we're missing out on half the talent, half the ideas. Empowering women wouldn't just be fair, it would benefit everyone.
It's like he was saying, let's stop shooting ourselves in the foot and create a world where everyone has a chance to succeed, regardless of gender.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at how far we've come since Mill's time, it's amazing. We have women who are doctors, CEOs, world leaders, you name it. But it also makes you wonder, have we actually achieved his vision of true equality?
Good question. It feels like we've come so far, but we're not quite there yet, you know?
It's like he gave us the map, but we still have to choose to follow it, you know?
And that kind of gets to the heart of why we're still talking about him today. He wasn't just some old philosopher. He was giving us a call to action, like a challenge to keep striving for a better, fairer, more fulfilling world, not just for ourselves, but for everyone.
Absolutely. And that's what makes his ideas so important, even now. They make us think, they make us question, and they push us to do better.
So how do we actually do that? How do we become more million, for lack of a better word? It sounds like a tall order after all this. Like, what are some concrete steps we can take?
Yeah, it can feel kind of overwhelming, but honestly, it boils down to a few things.
So how do we actually do that? How do we become more million, for lack of a better word? It sounds like a tall order after all this. Like, what are some concrete steps we can take?
Yeah, it can feel kind of overwhelming, but honestly, it boils down to a few things. Remember those higher pleasures we talked about? Challenge yourself, you know. Instead of just going for the easy thing, the instant gratification, seek out experiences that really engage your mind, your emotions, your sense of purpose. It's about choosing growth, choosing depth, instead of just, amusement.
So instead of that Netflix binge, maybe I pick up a biography of someone I really admire, someone who inspires me. It might be more work, but ultimately more fulfilling.
Exactly. You're getting it. And the second thing, remember how important individual liberty was to Mill? Well, that's not just for you. It's for everyone. Be wary of anyone, any group that wants to shut down ideas, shut down conversations, even if they have the best intentions. Remember Mill's warning about dead dogma? Those beliefs we just accept without question. That's what happens when we're not willing to have those tough conversations.
So that means being willing to stand up for the rights of people we disagree with, even if their views make us uncomfortable.
100%. It goes back to that belief in the power of open dialogue. And finally, and this is a big one, cultivate a mindset of always learning, always being open to new ideas. Don't be afraid to question, to debate respectfully, to challenge your own assumptions. That's how we grow, how we discover new truths, how we build a better future together.
It's like Mill is saying, go out there, be the best version of yourself, and then create a world where everyone else has that same opportunity.
That's a beautiful way to put it. He truly believed that individual growth, it wasn't separate from societal progress, it was essential to it. We all have a part to play.
Wow. What a legacy. This has really given me a lot to think about.
Me too, definitely. It's been a great conversation.
To everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the mind of John Stuart Mill. And remember, the next time you're faced with a choice, whether it's how to spend your time, what to read, even how to have a difficult conversation, remember his words. Your choices, your voice, your pursuit of a life well lived, it all matters. It all shapes the world around us. Until next time, keep those million ideas flowing.